And it has really just taken this brand to a different level in the market. Like I mentioned, we started out in May of 22 with 6 locations. And today we proudly are 125 locations across 39 states and over 400 territories. Business ownership does not give you more freedom. You are 24/7, but what it does is that it gives you the flexibility to create your own career path, right?
The realities of business ownership are it's not easy. As you mentioned, you're not getting any time freedom. You're going to be working your butt off that first year. You're going to be investing money, working your butt off, and trying to build that right team.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, the show where we help corporate executives experience time and financial freedom via franchising. Thanks for joining us today. We have an awesome guest for you today. Before we dive in, just wanted to thank you for joining. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas for topics, send it to us our way. You can email us directly, gg@ggthefranchiseguide.com. You can leave a comment in any of our social posts, YouTube. We really appreciate it. Let us know what you're thinking, topics, questions, concerns you have. We would love to make sure we address those concerns and questions on future episodes. So we're bringing on my good friend, Shannon Roderick, on the show. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you could give the audience a little bit of background, a little bit about yourself and how you got into franchising.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. It started out as a college athlete and played volleyball in college and had an opportunity to play at a private business school in Michigan. And it was so amazing to see. And this school now actually has franchising as a degree. And it was called Northwood University in Midland, Michigan. And they were always based around free enterprise, right? Entrepreneurship and really developing strong business characters coming out of there, and just had a great experience 4 years there, and then fell in love with the automotive industry. Obviously, being in Michigan, and the big three were a big contributor to that university. And after that, got into the automotive car sales and dealership operations there, and had a great opportunity to start with a brand new company called Sonic Automotive. And Sonic Automotive started with 3 dealerships and grew, took the company public, and we were really a consolidator. Back in the late 1990s, a lot of those first generation owners were getting ready to get rid of their dealerships, and Sonic was there to go ahead and either acquire, do a merger with the current owners, and so on and so forth. And just a great run that I had with them, just learning processes, efficiencies, and really expansion, right, across the country, and dealing with different personalities and things like that. So that ended right before the fall of the automotive industry, actually, in 2008. I had 2 young boys at the time, back to back, and knew that I couldn't be a stay-at-home, but I came from a long lineage of family business and started buying up companies in Charlotte. It was a great time to open up and buy companies because it was in the R word. It was in that recession phase. A lot of those businesses were undervalued, and we just started buying them up. And so a couple of them, we were thinking about franchising, but then we really just stayed within the local markets, and still have one in business that my husband runs to this day in the hospitality industry, and sold off the other ones before COVID hit. Then how I got into franchising, to be honest with you, through all of those experiences in business, I always say it's COC. It was because of COVID. I really wanted to get into a needs-based and not so much. Those businesses that I had before were hospitality and retail. And when you come into something like this, it really gives you a clear vision of what you may not want to struggle through if something like that should happen again. And Headhunter had reached out knowing that I was back in the market after selling some businesses. And our founder, Alex Blair, Actually, I called him because I knew he had some interactions with a company that wanted me to come work for him. And I met Alex for lunch one day, and he was telling me about RestoPros and where he wanted to take it. And that lunch meeting turned into an interview. And I think with my past experience in streamlining, expanding, and really being able to put growth into a platform for a brand new company was just a great marriage for both of us. And started with RestoPros in May 22. We had 6 locations. And one thing about RestoPros is they've always had a great foundation. They knew who they were as a company. We knew what we were going into a market. And to this day, we've enhanced a lot of the processes, a lot of the deliverables, but the foundation and relationship building in the market is still one of our main bread and butter that we have. And it has really just taken this brand to a different level in the market. We, like I mentioned, we started out in May of 22 with 6 locations. And today we proudly are 125 locations across 39 states and over 400 territories.
Wow. That is absolutely amazing. I didn't realize just basically 3 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Just had my anniversary last weekend.
Yes, congratulations. Happy Mother's Day. You hit them all this month. For the audience not familiar with RestoPros, who is RestoPros? What does RestoPros offer?
Sure. RestoPros is a mitigation company. Mitigation meaning there was damage. It might have been caused by water, fire, mold, smoke, storm damage. It could have been a bathroom overflow. It is where it just cannot be remediated with just a house fan or a towel. You're soaking up some damage or just removing it. It is really where we have to go in, remove the damaged material, dry out, get the structure, whether it's commercial or residential, into a safe environment. And then some of our locations take that service a little bit further. We always say we have to start out with mitigation, right? We've got to clear everything out. And some of our locations now have brought on rebuild to make sure that property can be restored to its original condition.
With RestoPros, there was, I'm not sure of the date, and this is a question I had for you, but Be Rugged Brands. Tell us a little bit about that and maybe any of the other brands that fall into that parent company or that umbrella.
Absolutely. Because of the success with RestoPros and the team behind that success, our founder is a very innovative individual. And we really did, when you have something really good, you've got the secret sauce, we've got the boilerplate. And more than anything, we had the vision of services and home services we wanted to bring to our markets in surrounding communities. And so Alex developed a company, a parent company called Be Rugged Brands. And that is going to house our different home services brands. We're cleaning out damage. We are sometimes in sewer and what we call in this business category 3. You would not drink it. You would not want to sit in it. You would not, it's bad. It's contaminated. You've got to clean everything that it has touched. The second brand that we have recently launched is called Scoop Brothers. And Scoop Brothers is going to be a pet waste valet service. We are going to be able to service both residential and commercial, and along with pet waste removal, scooping it, if you so inclined to categories that we are able to put in the commercial pods that you see, the pet waste pods that go around, and we will be able to service those also with installation or maintenance on them.
Awesome. It would Be Rugged. What is the plan, I guess, going forward? Is it you said, keep it all? Is it going to be, jokingly, you said the two brands, there's similarities between the two.
The cleanliness.
What does the future for the brand look like?
We are going to look at some more home services brands that really are more of either a subscription-based model that it's reoccurring and or needs-based. We really have a niche in this emergency services through quality of work, reaction and response time, and just how we deliver things to insurance and to our customers as far as estimates, quality of work, and really it's through documentation. We have just taken RestoPros and what we can build onto it to with technology. We've got Matterport where we scan the whole house and the property. And when's the last time you did inventory of your house? It is just it's a leave behind link that I know I haven't. Just being able, if something ever happened, we have some technology. If we did services at your house, that we would be able to scan and be able to store those or send you the link as a homeowner so that you had it after we were done. But really, and when it comes to Be Rugged, we really want to attract brands that are needs based and that we can have multi brands into a market, and hopefully potentially some of our owners they're adding to their portfolio if they like it. But I know that even with our current RestoPros owners, they trust, liked, and respect the team that built RestoPros behind it. Same team is under Be Rugged. And we're just really proud of it. We're really proud of the services and the systems that we produce in these brands and the provide.
Yeah, support is big, and we're going to talk about support and feedback here in a little bit. But going back to Be Rugged, we've had a couple companies where they essentially were representing 5 or more brands underneath their umbrella. What is the advantage to a potential franchise owner? So maybe they're typically starting off with one brand, which is usually what I recommend, especially most of the people listening here are corporate executives. Maybe they're making that leap for the first time into entrepreneurship. What are some advantages there? Is there any sharing of technology, marketing? You had mentioned teams, but what other advantages, even from the standpoint of being maybe the first to see the new brands that are going to be launched?
Sure. We do have got a lot of shared services just with our marketing. We have a great digital marketing partner out of Atlanta that has really taken all 4 brands, Be Rugged. We've got RestoPros. We've got Scoop Brothers. We have a new brand out there called Crawl Space Guardian, and that is going to focus on the encapsulation and crawl space needs for homes, which is so important because we know that if we're taking care of that underneath, that you want to take care of the foundation of your home and what it sits on, or we're not taking care of that base, it can start causing more problems. And what I think is important about Be Rugged is that having the shared vendors, having the shared services, they all know our mission. They all know where we're going. And I think more importantly, it's just the standardization that we know what kind of quality that we're getting into a partner. And I think that's really something that you have to hang your hat on because we did a lot of research. We made sure they could scale with us. But like we do in RestoPros, like we do with all of our customers, business starts with a relationship, and having those strong vendor relations that know where each brand is heading and can satisfy it and be there for our owners, I think is really important. I think the second thing about the shared services are vehicles, right? There's a different vehicle for each of these brands, and there's some cost expense control with that. And we've got some benefits that will also, as we use one for one brand, we can use it in another. We should see some of those savings across the whole company.
I like that. Yeah, because sometimes people will ask, is it better to stick with one brand, add a complementary brand? And there's pros and cons. There's differences. I don't even like to say pros and cons. I like to say there's differences. And sometimes the options may not be there. Maybe an instance where the territory was sold around you and now you're looking at a complementary brand. So it's good to have those options because I always encourage everyone to think out, what do the next 5 or 10 years look like? Are you looking for a quicker exit? Are you looking to create a legacy for your family? So these are all things I have them maybe not necessarily deciding on day one, but just thinking about as they expand their business. That's a big one. In our last conversation, one thing that really attracted me to RestoPros, and we've helped quite a few people move forward specifically with RestoPros, is the support. And not only support, the lines of communication are completely open, checking in with franchisees and things like that, which I think is a major differentiator. We speak with numerous brands And the level of support is definitely on the high end, knowing what's going on with each franchisee, what their thoughts, where their needs are, maybe what their struggles are. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because you hear, and it's been, I believe, in a way, overused, responsible franchising. What is that? And I've seen it take all these different directions, but it really boils down to supporting communication. So can you expand a little bit on, or elaborate a little bit on what, how you work with your franchisees?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to tell you, our level of support almost came by default. I probably was a little bit of a unicorn because I had zero franchise experience. All I knew is that there was an owner, they invested money, and we needed to support them.
Right.
No one told me that, oh, we could suggest some things. Nobody said, hey, I came from a business where we owned these properties, we owned these entities, and it was over 100 locations across the US. And so if something didn't work out, you went to that location, you supported the team that was there, you put action plans in place, and we just said, hey, we're going to follow up with you and we're going to right the ship and we're going to keep moving. Well, in franchising, I said, we're going to go support them. We're going to put people in the market. We're going to put people in the field. We're going to have meaningful conversations with our owners because they just didn't buy this franchise to let it sit on the shelf. They didn't let it just fall. But what we really recognized in the very beginning is a ton of our owners came from being responsible for somebody else's assets and liabilities. And now they're responsible for their own. What we did realize very quickly getting into this is we needed to help them set up their business, run their business, learn a new industry. And we dumbed it down. It was, do you know how to do this? Yes, I know how to put my name in here. Okay. Do you know that you need this general liability? Do you know how to go down and get a business license? And so when you give that level of support, it automatically builds camaraderie within your company and a culture. And that is one thing that we really do mean what we say is when you become part of Be Rugged or you become an owner in RestoPros or Scoop Brothers, it is just not a gimmick. It's just not a one-liner. You are part of this family because I take responsibility for, and so does the rest of our team. You invested your hard-earned money into a brand and we need to deliver on that. And so I think really having the level of support and growing at the same time is always listening to your franchise owners. Seeing, you hear one thing, yep, we're going to address it, and see, you hear 2 or 3 things. Okay, let's talk to the team and see if anybody else has heard it. You hear 4, 5, and 6. We need to put a process in place to either correct it, either celebrate it, correct it, or why does it keep coming up? And I think having that impact of being hands-on and not waiting, when should we launch it? Not waiting, when should we change it? We heard you, we need to help, we're going to change it now, and we're going to keep the ball moving. And I think that has a lot to do with our success is that we listen, we listen to the system.
Yeah. And that's it, right? You may think you had it figured out, but the people that are running their businesses every single day, they're coming across, there's going to be some issues. Maybe, I don't know, something needs to be needs to be changed, whether it be the pricing, maybe the marketing, maybe the target, who you're going after. I think that's huge. When I check in with people we've helped over the years, sometimes they'll say, I feel bad asking about this, or they may think they're the only person experiencing that issue. And I said, that may be the case, but it probably isn't. And you should really check in with the franchisor. Usually there's a coach assigned. You speak directly with the franchisees. That's not the case for every brand. So I always say, reach out. If you're having issues, bring it up. If the financials aren't aligning, bring it up. Maybe you're accounting for something incorrectly. Maybe there's just a mistake in the chart of accounts. Whatever it is, go back to the franchisor. And it's amazing how many people say, you know what, I should have done that. Not sure why I didn't. And on the flip side, you may think everything is going well and there's no complaints. System's growing and some of the franchisees may be struggling. So I always encourage them, bring it up. And it's not to complain, but just to say, hey, maybe this isn't working. There needs to be a better way, or maybe we need some retraining and we need some additional support. So I think that boils down to, would you say culture, or we call it support, but it all kind of blends together. Support, culture, feedback. I think that's a big part. And you'll get to hear that when you're talking to franchise companies and speaking with the franchisees on those validation calls. You'll get to hear directly from franchisees if the franchisor has that open door policy, if they're supportive, if they're acknowledging of any issues and trying to work with you and help you. Anything I'm missing there? Because I think that's a big piece, and it's an area I see a lot of people not asking about.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it is. I think it is being able to be accessible, right? And letting your owners, keep saying franchisees, they're owners and they help us build this brand every day, but knowing that they have that accessibility to the team, and that they have the freedom, right, to say what's on their mind, because they are part of a family. What family discussion have you had within your own? And it's always been positive or great. And the one thing is that I truly believe that everything has a solution. And if we know about it, then we can help solve it. If we don't know about it, that we can't do anything about it. So we always really try to end every conversation. We tell our team, let me know if there's anything we can do. Please don't be, whether it's carrier pigeon, email, text message, our phones are always open. Our doors are always open. But to become a better brand, we need to hear from our owners, wrong or indifferent. And as long as you can accept that openness and not know that you're the master of all the answers, I think your brand can continue to grow in a positive manner. And then it leads really to some ownership on our owners, right? For example, something came up and I said, did you let anybody know? No. Why not? I didn't know if it would really affect anybody. Actually, let's put it out there. You bring a problem to me, I'm going to ask our franchise performance directors. A lot of people in this world call them coaches, but they are responsible for between 30 and 35 locations per FPD in our organization. And they are there to just focus on those locations and being able to help. So I think the more that we can communicate to them, hey, put this out to your division or your region, see if they're having these same things, then it's easier to move that needle to correct anything that we need to address.
Love it. Yeah, it sounds so basic and so simple, but you guys do a really good job. And even prior to that, it's just, the anxiety levels are really high. You don't know what you don't know. I know when I started over 20 years, close to 20 years ago in franchising, there was all these things on my mind. Who do I hire? Who do I get for payroll? When do I set up my legal entity? What about all the other legal documents? Do I need a franchise attorney? There's so many moving parts, and we help where we can, but I like that you have that checklist. Putting yourself in their shoes, basically. Many of them have never owned the business before. So really giving them kind of step by step, as you mentioned, these are the things you have to do. And maybe not throwing it all on their plate, but just saying maybe these are the first 5 things you need to do. Break it down, because it does become overwhelming if you've never done it before. And some people may be still transitioning out of a job, or maybe they just left their job, but they're prioritizing everything. When do I order the truck? When do I start hiring employees? So that roadmap, that guide, I think is crucial, and it definitely helps with the nerves and helping them make better decisions. In that we have a plan, and these are the 5 items we have to tackle this week. So that's a big part, and those are some of the questions and that I get concerns, like where the heck do I even start? And I go, let the franchisor will assist you in that process. What else stands out to you from a support standpoint with RestoPro? We'll call it Be Rugged, because you have multiple brands that really go over and beyond supporting franchise owners. A lot of these owners are first-time owners. So what else from a support standpoint are you offering to assist them?
I think what sets us apart and what allows us to support is the camaraderie and the care. I am not just here to take a royalty. We have always said that we want these brands to change people's lives, right? They were doing what they were doing. They invested their money in something, And we want to give them the roadmap to be able to be successful. And I think A, listening, B, being innovative. I always tell people, they're like, wow, the training for when we started as an early adopter, 0 to 30, looks completely different now at 105 and 110 and things like that. And I said, because everybody's human, right? And when we get these questions in presentations or in training, in our new owner training, and we come across somebody, I think it is always really important to have an open mind and being able to make the system better and to ask questions. We have discovery days, and probably about 3 months ago, we had about 15 people in this discovery day. And I looked at one of my coworkers that we were presenting with, and I said, we have a problem. She said, I thought that discovery day went really great. And I said, no, the discovery day went great, but we've made the presentation where nobody had any questions. And that makes me nervous. And she was like, well, that means we've made the presentation great after everyone. And I said, but we need some interaction. We need to be able to challenge some of these owners to get better with our presentation. Is it that we should be diving into more digital marketing and what our plan is for that? Should we be diving into what you want to look for in recruiting? Where that additional is. And I think if you have an open mind to keep challenging the system and yourself to become better, I think that support just falls in line of what we're providing our owners. If you stay stagnant, your owners are going to stay stagnant. And I don't think that's a good way to stay in market. I don't think that is a good way to build a brand. But more importantly, you got to be up with the times and know and have the flexibility to make some positive changes to retain more market share.
I love that. That was great. I completely agree. People listening in, we mix up the topics of the shows. But one thing I always like to ask is if you can share some advice. So a lot of people are looking to make that first leap. So they've never owned the business. Maybe they had an Airbnb. That's been a common business theme. But what advice would you give to someone that is maybe sick of the corporate grind? They don't want to work for their employer anymore. They've explored business ownership, but are struggling making that decision or taking that leap. What advice would you give to that corporate person in that specific situation that is really scared to make the leap and leave that job?
Sure. I think, and that's where I'm unique too, because I didn't get into this position by coming up through the ranks. And so a lot of the advice, a lot of the talks that I get to have with individuals is about making that leap. I was in corporate America in the automotive industry. Something happened where I said, man, I really love business. My family was in business for over 160 years, multi-generation. Yes, my sisters and I broke my father's heart when we left Michigan and came down south and didn't take it over. We were the last generation to kill it. But one of the things that I would always say is do your research. This is till I say this to probably some of your candidates that you brought to RestoPros, is don't rely on somebody else to tell you about the research in your market. If you are looking for a brand, if you are looking, go out. And I did that as a business owner. When I was looking at a restaurant or I was looking at a retail space, I would go when they first opened up. I would go during the slow times. I would go during a high peak time. Is somebody, if they're operationally stayed open until 6? What did business traffic look like at 7? Was there more potential for me to expand? And I would say, A, do the research about the market and the brand that you're looking at. B, remember, and this is something that I always pause when I hear, why do you want to become a business owner? And they immediately say, I want more freedom. I will tell you now, folks, business ownership does not give you more freedom. You are 24/7, but what it does is that it gives you the flexibility to create your own career path. right? And for your family, for you, for any legacy, it gives you that flexibility because like we always say, you are going to do it one way because you were investing the money in it. Somebody else is going to work for you. But the biggest thing that I always tell people is do self-evaluation. And self-evaluation is going to be, that's the last key to it. Do your research, make sure that you understand your why. And lastly, self-evaluation. Are you somebody that can be disciplined to follow a process? Are you someone that can hold and articulate expectations? And then lastly, are you able to hold people accountable to your expectations and be disciplined? Again, it's a full circle. It comes around. It's not bad if you don't like to stay within some guardrails. It's not bad. It's just, I think each business owner needs to know their strengths and their weaknesses and be able to build a team around all of those different qualities.
Yeah, I love that. It's franchise ownership. You don't need experience necessarily in the industry. The franchisor can teach you, but ultimately, what do you bring to the table? What's your role? What's that transferable skill set coming from Wall Street and you're getting into the restoration business? Sure. If you're an extrovert, if you're great at networking and can manage teams, franchise ownership, that added layer, I always say you have to make sure you can follow systems. We're not buying the McDonald's of the world to change their menu, but if you're open and honest and what do you want, what are you looking to create? What do you bring to the table? There are no right or wrongs. Sometimes it's more importantly than anything else. I want to make a lot of money, but I do want the flexibility to, for me, become a soccer coach and coach the kids' games. And I don't think I've missed a game ever since my son was 4 years old, or my daughter's Girl Scout events and music and things like that. Jot those things down. There's no right or wrong. I always get the what ifs. Depends. At the end of the day, what do you anticipate or what do you envision your ideal business being, from the role to the people you're doing business with, to the people even you employ? Are you okay? Do you want the system, I always say, built for you, or do you want to build it from scratch? These are also questions to help you figure out if a franchise could be a good fit, but these are all valid things. You don't have to do research. You really have to look inward and figure out, am I okay with this? The realities of business ownership it's not easy. As you mentioned, you're not getting any time freedom. You're going to be working your butt off that first year. You're going to be investing money, working your butt off and trying to build that right team. I think being honest and setting the expectation. And some of the people will filter themselves out and say, you know what, the timing isn't right, or I'm not willing to take the risk. Then you got to go back to that why. If the why is strong enough, then you have to figure out, will my current job get me to this why? And that why is not missing the games and the family events. That why has to be very strong because there's going to be ups and downs. Business ownership is cyclical. I always stress that. And people just want to dive in and talk about brands. And I'm like, we're going to get into all that. And I know they get super excited. What do you got? Show me what you got. And what are they? Restaurants, non-restaurants? You want to get clear on that. Once you have the foundation, we can figure out. I think finding the brands is actually easier than people think. The hard part is getting people to open up and being honest with themselves as to what this vehicle, what they're looking to get from this vehicle, I guess is what I was trying to say. I get really excited about that because people want to dive into the brands on the first call. And I'm like, I know nothing about you, let alone, even if I did, we would still have to see what's available in your market. Did I miss anything there? Because this is such a crucial part of this whole process that people just glance over it and just dive in, and I call it settle. I don't want to work nights and weekends, but I'm going to buy a restaurant because I love the sandwiches at this franchise or the burgers here. And they don't realize, okay, you're open 7 days a week, holidays, weekends. You got a lot more employees. You have a lot more turnover. I feel like, I don't know, I talk about it all the time, and then I'll get on that first call and people want to dive in and talk about the brands available in the market.
You take such a great, and a lot of even your counterparts, you take such pride in really the research that you do in brands, and you want to be able to guide those folks. I remember you saying, listen, I only give people a couple of brands because I don't want to get them overwhelmed. I find out their why. I find out their likes, because if you don't like what you're doing, I can't give you a brand that you're not going to, or an industry that you're not going to. You wake up every day and, you don't like dirt and you have a landscaping company. That's not going to be a good fit. I love that aspect of you're also doing the research on that individual and trying to make sure that you can present brands that make sense and be able to give them the full scope. I think if you give somebody 20 brands and it's all over the board,
That's a
that
lot.
needle's not gonna be able to move. So I would say that. Another thing that I would say too about franchising and going from working for somebody else to working for yourself is the why is important, but it's also what are you looking to get out of it?
Mhm.
And I that's what makes Be Rugged really, really special because we know not one size fits all. It just doesn't. There are so many different people and there's so many different behaviors and personalities and things like that we really do. We start out owner operator. We have an option for semi involved, and then we have the executive model, and we have something for every single brand in one of those three options. And we go through that from the very beginning with our prospects. We'll say, hey, we know you don't know everything about this brand, but right now, today, if we were to award you something, what would you do? How would your business be structured?
Right.
Well, I'm in this job. I need the business to get up here. Okay, now we know your goals. Instead of you need to be in the market 7 days a week from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. We're going to have to help you build a team to fill that role because you're not going to be able to do it if you're semi-involved. I think it's important to be able to listen to our owners. And one thing that I will tell you I've learned is to be absolutely transparent in your business because we have such a long relationship with these owners. That is the best team building, brand building that you can do because the message doesn't change. They come through and you're there to be really guiding them, but that is what I mean when we say RestoPros Foundation. We've never changed the foundation. We want you to go out and build relationships. That starts from our vendors to our customers. And in that model, I think is just important to be transparent. When they get into the system, they're gonna find out if you weren't anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. This is what 10-year agreement, right? Usually this is a marriage. This is something long term. You need to be really clear, and you guys do a great job. Who is our ideal? Who's our franchise avatar? If some brands need you to be full time and you're like, I'm keeping my job the first year, that's great. This is just maybe this isn't going to work unless you have the opportunity to really leave that job, but that role has to match who that franchise avatar is. Sometimes I've seen brands struggle with that, semi-involved, not semi-involved. They're not very clear. So being very clear on that end, that way it's, hey, maybe Resto Pros isn't the best fit for you, but Scoop Brothers may be the better fit or vice versa. And that's another advantage of working with a parent company that has multiple brands. So I think it's a major advantage. With that being said, I always like to end the shows with a fun fact. So I don't know if you remember what you put on the form, but fun fact. Yeah. And what is that? Because this one I like an add-on to yours, but I'll let you go first.
I do. It is a fun fact is I enjoy skiing, water and snow, but a fun fact in my younger days, literally slalom course every day,
Wow.
beating the street. And now my boys who are now 18 and 19, they're like, oh my gosh, you can still do it. So that is my one thing that I do as we all continue to get older every year. I still continue to do the thing that I've done since I learned how to ski when I was 4 years old, water ski when I was 4 years old, and still do it every summer, every opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah, skiing. I'll throw a fun fact at you, and a reason you'll probably never, ever invite me skiing is that I went skiing. I'll be 47 this year. I went skiing 2 years ago for the first time in Vermont with a good friend of mine. And I was on probably my back or my butt the whole time. I don't give up very easily, but I gave up on skiing that first day. So maybe one of these days, maybe I just needed some extra guidance or coaching, but I literally had kids skiing around me as I'm on the kiddie slope on my butt half the time, or pretty much the whole time. So that's my little fun fact to skiing. But I've always envied people like, wow, this is absolutely unbelievable. My son, who was 15 at the time, picked it up immediately. He's an athlete. And I've never been so frustrated before. Ended up drinking coffee the entire day watching them go down the slope. So if you have any tips, definitely send them our way. But I think I'm going to give it one more shot, and then that may go. I may just
I think it's so funny because growing up in Michigan, all of our snow hills up north were built around golf courses, right?
Mm.
When the golf courses weren't used in Michigan, we would bump out some hills and things like that on the fairways, and that became our ski hills.
Right.
So then moving down to North Carolina, we have a mountain that is about 2 hours away, and it's 5506, right? Elevation, 5506. It's a little bit higher than what we would see in Michigan. And then we ventured out west. Never skied in North Carolina again, because I think just learning out there and continuing, it was a game changer for us and our family. So I give it another shot.
Okay.
I've got faith.
You have faith. Okay. You haven't seen the video. I wish someone took video, because after the video, you'd probably say, you know what, maybe not. But well, we're going to give it one more shot. I promised my son we'd go out one more time. But I do appreciate you coming on the show. This was really fun. I jokingly said, wish we recorded the first conversation. We were covering quite a few topics, but looking forward to you bringing back on and keeping us with updates, right, on Be Rugged, additional brands that are coming to market. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you soon in Cincinnati.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks. It was great. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.